What's going on, guys? I'm doing a video today on just some commentary on television and this one particular connection that plenty of people have made by now. You might have heard it, you might not have. When I first heard it, I was kind of surprised by it, but this isn't new information to me, but it's worth repeating. The topic of the video isn't limited to this man or anything. It's more about TV in general, but anyways, I'll explain this connection first. So a lot of you probably know who Edward Bernays is. I'll read a quick description to you. I'm not even saying Wikipedia is like a good place to go to for like true, genuine information, but it gives you a good rundown. This will tell you basically what he is, like who he is. Edward Bernays was an Austrian American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda. Referred to in his obituary as the father of public relations, Bernays was named one of the 100 most influential Americans of the 20th century by Life. He was the subject of a full-length biography by Larry Tye called The Father of Spin, and later an award-winning 2002 documentary for the BBC by Adam Curtis called The Century of the Self. He's known as, he's almost, there's a thing about people when they're separated by enough time. Not that he died in 1995, not that that was that long ago. But there's a thing about humans when they're separated by enough time and like storytelling. Like a man becomes a symbol. Like the way the founding fathers of this country, it was only 300 years ago about, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. They're like a symbol. They're not even men anymore. They're like gods in a way. They're symbols for the values of Americans. And in that sense, this guy is almost symbolic for, the father of spin, the father of public relations, propaganda, which that word I'm pretty sure is Greek or Latin, which means propagare, which means to propagate, which, a lot of times we hear propaganda and we always think of it in negative. Propaganda technically, literally means to just put out information, it just means information that you're putting out there. So this is a quote by Bernays in his book. I forget what it's called. It might be called I don't think it's called Organizing Chaos, but you can find it. It's like his #1 book. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in the democratic society. Those who manipulate the unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. We are governed, our minds molded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organized. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. So, even that, I'm about to upload a video along with this one called Ordo Ab Chao, right? And like how the principle of making order out of chaos, and look at like how he labels this segment of his writing, like the chapter, or whatever you want to call this, organizing chaos. He's basically saying man is fundamentally chaotic, right? And logic dictates that if you give them too much freedom if you don't rule over them in some sense, if you don't mold their minds, they're going to basically destroy themselves or create chaos or like not have ideal conditions, basically. It's basically a justification for brainwashing, mind control, government in general, things like that. See right here, Bernays argues that the manipulation of public opinion is necessary for a stable and well-functioning society. Just about every paragraph of this book to be disturbing, especially considering how much power and influence he had during his lifetime. Remembered as the father of public relations, 5 stars, because this kind of stuff you aren't taught in history class. I think that he's quoting the story now, or the book. The systemic study of mass psychology revealed to students the potentialities of invisible government of society by manipulation of the motives which actuate men in the group. If we understand the mechanism and motives of the group mind, is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing it. If you can influence the leaders either with or without their conscious cooperation, you automatically influence the group in which they sway. But men do not need to be actually gathered together in a public meeting or in a street riot to be subject to the influences of mass psychology, because man is by nature gregarious. He feels himself to be a member of a herd even when he is alone in his room with the curtains drawn. His mind retains the patterns which have been stamped on by the group influences. Man, there's a lot to unpack here, and I probably won't even be able to do some of these ideas justice. You could side with him on this argument that you need to control people's minds and influence them, otherwise society won't run smoothly. But it just goes to show, like I said to you guys before, if you don't actually ever consciously decide, seek out the truth personally and decide what your values and morals are, it's going to be done for you, and it probably already has been done for you. And don't think, because you don't watch TV, I don't even think this is just limited to TV, even though that's like the angle of this video. Just because you don't watch TV doesn't mean, don't feel too great about yourself or too cocky yet, because I don't think that means you just, that's the only medium whoever these people are that are trying to influence the minds of humanity and the hearts of humanity. It's not the only method they use is television. I think they use music, they use social media, they use, politics, they use stars and celebrities and, all these other things. So just because you don't watch the generic, cable TV, like I said, don't think that you've escaped this. In matter of fact, nowadays the TV's, I'd say, it's still impactful, but it's less impactful than it was. Like, there's streaming and stuff now and all these other things and the internet. So, they definitely have other methods to get to you. It's pretty scary, man. Most people will never even contemplate this. If you're really going to dive deep into who you are, you have to think about what you're thinking about, if that makes sense. That's when I know that sounds kind of stupid, but just because you have a thought or a feeling doesn't mean that that's true or who you are or how you actually feel. You have to really wonder where that even came from or why you even think that way. And if you never do that, then like he said over here, is it not possible for us to do this without people actually even knowing about it? Whatever the quote actually was. Is it not possible to control and regiment the masses according to our will without their knowing it? So it's probably been done to you without you even knowing it. And that's why, and people will never do this because they feel they have to, disintegrate their entire identity. But it's not even a real identity that you even decided for yourself. It's been handed to you from the moment you crawled out of the womb and you were plopped in front of a TV and all these other things. And groups, that's another thing. He's saying that his mind retains the patterns which have been stamped on it by group influences. And that's a whole thing, collectivism and group identity and the individual identity being paramount over the group identity. I do believe that. That's a whole nother topic for another video, but definitely don't want to give in to the hive mind. Just because a lot of people think something is good or something is true, that has no bearing on if it is actually good or if it is actually true. 1 million people could believe wrong is right, but that doesn't make, if you believe in right and wrong actually existing, just because people decide, in the majority that something that is actually wrong is right, doesn't make it true. Same thing I thought about when people make that statement about history is written by the victors, right? They're almost saying, the good guys are whoever won. So, and yeah, I guess I understand that to a certain extent, but you can still use your discernment and objective morality to as a measuring stick and as a comparison to what actually took place in the history book, and you can decide for yourself to a certain extent. To me, when they're saying that, they're almost saying morality is relative, because the good guys are whoever fucking killed the other guys and now they're the good guys because they said so. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's necessary. I don't think that's true, especially if you go out of your way to like look for the truth and what actually happened outside like who's just initially telling that to you. Anyways, Edward Bernays, more information on him. His best known campaigns include a 1929 effort to promote female smoking by branding cigarettes as feminist torches of freedom. It's pretty funny. His work for the United Fruit Company in the 1950s connected with the CIA orchestrated overthrow of democratically elected Guatemalan government. So you have this guy, man. They're literally there's literally like scientists implementing psychology in all. Nothing is organic. Stop taking things at face value. I wish I would go into this video more organized, but I hope you guys see the implications of this. He worked for dozens of major American corporations, including Procter & Gamble and General Electric, and for government agencies, politicians, and nonprofit organizations. Of his many books, Crystallizing Public Opinion and Propaganda, that's probably the one I was reading from earlier, gained special attention as early efforts to define and theorize the field of public relations, citing works and writers such as Gustav Le Bon, Wilfred Trotter, Walter Lippmann, and Sigmund Freud, his own double uncle. That's what we're going to get into. So Sigmund Freud, the psychologist, is Edward Bernays' uncle. So we have a family connection going on here. He described the masses as irrational and subject to herd instinct. Outlined skilled practitioners could use crowd psychology and psychoanalysis to control them in desirable ways. This is messed up stuff, man. This is messed up stuff. Edward Bernays was born to an American Jewish family, the son of Elie Bernays and Anna Freud Bernays. His great-grandfather, blah, 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 blah. Bernays was a double nephew of Sigmund Freud. You have this connection of this man whose uncle is a psychologist. Then this guy kind of passed the torch to him, and he carried it, and he figured out how to implement this psychology into basically culture creation or social engineering. That's what I'm saying, man. You think all these things, you just turn on the TV or turn on your little social media and you hear a musician singing about this and that, or a TV star talking about this and that, and you think it's just all, it's all just happens like that. It's literally a plot. It's a conspiracy to get you to think how they want you to think. The TV is not there to tell you the truth about any subject, in my opinion. It's treating the human mind like a computer program, and you're putting in certain information and withholding other information, and you're programming their minds and their hearts. You're giving them certain values in their heart, too. You're teaching them what to feel and how to feel and what their motivations and desires are. And by default, you're actually controlling their actions, because your thoughts and emotions and your worldview guide your actions. And it's mind control. This is what this is. And it's not even like, some sci-fi stuff. It's right here out in the open. And it's not a game. And you should really start thinking about the world in that terms and stop being so trusting of all the shit that comes down the pipeline to you for you to, partake in, that they just throw out there for you. Everything that's available, you shouldn't take part in. Just because it's available, learn how to say no. You understand? Sorry, I'm not trying to... Most of you guys know better, but seriously. Okay, so this is the other family connection. So, Freud is the uncle of Bernays. This guy, Mark Bernays Randolph, is the nephew of Edward Bernays. So you have Sigmund Freud, the uncle, Edward Bernays, then again, Mark Randolph as the nephew of Bernays. And he is the co-founder and first CEO of Netflix. That's pretty weird. Pretty weird. Okay, so let's see. One of Randolph's paternal great-uncles was psychoanalyst pioneer Sigmund Freud, and another paternal great-uncle of Randolph was Edward Bernays, an Austrian-American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda. Randolph spent his summers during high school and college working for the National Outdoor Leadership School, becoming one of the youngest, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't even matter. So, like I said, you have this family connection of psychologists, and then a guy who figured out how to implement the psychology into social engineering and like reality creation and mind control. Basically, is what it is. Like influencing people's minds to think how you want them to think. and feel how you want them to feel and act how you want them to act. People, that's what I'm saying, man. People really are way too naive. It's this, like, we're in bad shape here, okay? And then, so this guy, and then, you know, you have Edward Bernays, who figured out how to implement it, and then you have his nephew that went on to be involved in television, like the most popular TV streaming service there is. That's what I was saying. If you just because you escaped TV doesn't mean it's not gotten you in some area. Like, Netflix is TV. That's streaming. The internet is, you know, captured as well. Social media, all this stuff, music especially. People think music, it's a tool against. I'm sorry. Like, I know you like a song a guy sang, and you think that you're like, you know, very fondly of him, but you don't even know him other than what he's sold you, other than what he's shown to you as an image, and you believed it. It's fake. It's show business. And it's probably being used as a tool to manipulate you, I would bet. So, I don't know, man. Like I said before in another video, you don't have to agree with this. You can even not like me for saying this. If you watch certain shows and listen to certain music and like sing along and really feel joy in your heart when like certain themes come up, or if you identify with certain characters, like this meme's displaying right now, there's something wrong with you. And not only is there something wrong with you, your values are messed up. And you can claim that you have other values. You can say that with your words, but when it comes down to it, if you don't actually put those values first, then you're not serious. You don't actually mean it. I mean, in my opinion, you don't actually have those values. If you give them up as soon as you're tempted, as soon as you're intimidated, as soon as it's not convenient for you anymore, then you never actually had them to begin with. And if you actually break down the word principle, go look up its etymology. Principle literally means first priority. So whatever endeavor you go into, everything you go into, principles, first things first, principles are first. So if I have a value of being loyal to my wife, and then I turn on a radio and this guy's talking about how I'm going to cheat on my wife and this and that, and like women are whores and whatever, you know, I know this is a very a dumb example, but it's true. And that doesn't conflict with your supposed value of being like valuing companionship with your friends and wife and whatever. If that doesn't cause conflict inside of you and make you want to turn away from it, then you don't actually feel that way. You do not actually have that value, or at least not as much as you say you claim to. And I think that's just the truth. And people get really, really mad at you when you suggest that. It's just like holding people accountable to saying to actually living how they say they for what they say they care about. To me that's not that rude. It's just true. And it's not even just about principle. It's literally about cognition and like reality creation. Like, once you get people, I believe that once you get people individually and especially collectively in a mass scale to start thinking and feeling and acting, especially acting a certain way, even just thinking and feeling, you're creating, like, they're using you as a vehicle to generate a reality that they want you to create. It's almost like, to me, it's almost like demonic influence. Like, demons or spirits or forces need humans to manifest themselves in this dimension, if that makes sense to you. I know that's a very crazy way of putting it. I don't know. Take it, you know, make of that what you will. One of the points I'm trying to make is right here. See, this is a meme. I didn't make this. This is a meme. People post it for jokes. So take everything I just told you about how Sigmund Freud, the psychologist, his nephew, Edward Bernays, taking that psychology and using it as a tool to influence minds, and then his nephew going into the television business, Netflix business, and like, okay, is that a coincidence that all those guys are related? So take all that information and then couple that with this meme, and Netflix making sure women will always have a thing for toxic men. And I don't know these shows. I only know this character in the bottom right. He's like a serial killer that like stalks women, and it's women that always share these type of memes too. So it's not like a guy that shared this and like he's just resentful about it. It's like girls themselves joke about it, and they're almost acknowledging the fact that Netflix, in a joking way, they're acknowledging that Netflix is literally influencing them to have a thing for for toxic, in their own words, negative attributes in men? Explain that to me, man. They're self-aware, which is the most disgusting part about it. But I don't think they're super self-aware, because I don't think they understand holistically, like, the bigger picture of what's going on. Like, oh wow, it's just, you know, I do believe they're doing this on purpose. They're trying to get you to love death. They're trying to get you to love what's wrong. They're trying to make you hate yourself. They're trying to make you love what's bad and hate what's good. Love the darkness rather than light. It's really that simple. Love ignorance rather than truth. Love all, you know what I mean? And most people really are like that. Like I said, an example of you loving the darkness rather than light is you have this light in you of like, oh wow, this is probably what good is. Like, for example, being loyal to my wife or girlfriend, or like valuing the bonds that I share with people. And then you turn on a song about, oh, I cut her off and I hate everybody and it's all about the money and I don't care about you and I'll sleep with your girl, specifically your girl. I always thought that was funny in rap. Like, he's like dissing the audience, like, I'll have sex with your woman. He's like talking to you. It's like, why do you, it's kind of funny. He's like literally disrespecting you as a listener. And, or even, this isn't much better, or if you sing along and pretend that you're the guy that's sleeping on with other people's women, I don't really know that's much better. You're kind of you're kind of an asshole. Again, man, I don't know. You guys get it. I'm going on a rant here. TV is a tool to manipulate you. Bottom line. So is music. And it's not even hidden, bro. A lot of times, just read the lyrics. Just sit down and read the lyrics. Read them. And then you look at some of these guys, the tattoos they have, some of the symbols they throw up, and it's really, basically, you know, I'm not trying to be that guy, but it does boil down to them creating a satanic and promoting a satanic ideology and culture. And, you know, that's how I see it. Here's a quote from Nixon: "The American people don't believe anything until they see it on television." So they won't feel like they have the authority or the credentials to go and look for truth. They feel like they're only allowed to be told the truth from certain certified places, one of them being the TV. I'm trying to give a modern example without getting my video taken down. We're locked down for a certain reason right now. I'm trying to like avoid certain buzzwords to trigger like an algorithm robot from taking down my shit, but most people won't change their ways until they're given permission from the TV. Like, I know it sounds pompous, but that's literally what's taking place. Until the TV gives them the go-ahead, they're not going to change their opinion or change their ways until they're given the permission from the magic mirror in their room or in their living room. And you could, you know, that's another aspect too. There's things in witchcraft called scrying mirrors, scrying, scrying. And they're like black mirrors, and there's probably not a coincidence that televisions and like cell phones look like black mirrors. And another thing, when televisions were switching from analog to digital, I think the government, you can look this up, I don't have a picture of it, but you can literally find this if you want. It's not hard, it's well documented. The government literally handed out coupons, like they handed out government funding so people could get the TV upgrade. Because once news stations and all these other people were going to stop broadcasting in analog, I think it was, it means if you had that old TV, you wouldn't have access to television anymore. So you would need the upgrade. So the government gave people money to upgrade. Why do you think they care so much about the TV, you having a TV in your house? Because they care about you having a good time, being entertained and all that? No, it's because they know it's their way to speak to you in your own household and influence you sitting inside your own home. In my opinion, you shouldn't even have one of those things. Or at least you definitely shouldn't be playing any filth on it. I hope some of this makes sense, guys. I know most of this is just ranting, but to me, one of the subjects I'm most passionate about is mind control. And like, you know, everyone's focused on the 3D world. Like, we're looking around at manifestations of things, right? Manifestations of violence and lust and greed and all these things, and we're chasing phantoms like, oh man, look how bad this guy acted, look how bad that. But what's really causing it? What's really causing it? What's truly behind? That's what the occult deals with mostly. It's what occult means. It's hidden. The Bible says, for example, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness in this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. That's probably my favorite verse of all time. At least it's in the top 5. And what it's, to me, what it is, it's bringing the focus from the flesh and the physical world down to what the true causal factors are, and that's the mind and the heart and the values and the principles and the motivations and the desires and the worldviews of man that are leading him to behave in a certain way and create certain things on this level of existence, right? That's what spiritual nature is. Like, studying that stuff is. It's learning about what's really actually behind the scenes. And that's why psychology, storytelling, religion, the occult, symbolism, all these things overlap. That's why I think it's so important. That's why I place so much importance on the individual, what they feel in their heart and what they think in their mind. I think that's more important than what the president's saying. What you as an individual are thinking and feeling inside your heart, that's more important. That'll actually, like, that's why I make a big fuss about things like us dancing along to, like, really just not good mantras, and I don't know, man. I hope you guys understand. It's the last picture I have, and you know, I could do a whole video on this. This was from a guy named Yuri as in Y-U-R-I Bezmenov, I think. He was ex-KGB. If you've been involved in this stuff, you've probably seen him before. He's talking about, like, subversion of countries, particularly the United States. You know, I'll probably do a video going through this whole diagram, but real quickly, okay? So you have it broken down into 3 columns. Areas of subversion, the method of subversion itself, and the result of the subversion process, of the subversion method, right? So, for example, religion, which, even if you don't like the organized church, but just the idea of God and like I was just talking about, the spiritual nature of man itself, of even being able to analyze like what's underneath, what's behind what's manifesting on this realm. Even the ability to even like think about those things, I would categorize into religion. Even the ideas of good and evil. You don't have to like organized church, synagogue, or mosque in order to like. They're just basically crapping on the idea of God, is how I would bluntly put it. Politicized, commercialized, so right there, we're just talking about organized religion. That's one of the people's main, you know, complaints against organized religion. It's commercialized, which, sure, I agree. You know, tax breaks, whatever, money, people getting, you know, millions and millions of dollars off preaching. Entertainment, it's like Disneyland, right? They're not there to actually guide you through life. It's there as like a business, and it really comes off real scammy looking. So through that demoralization method, subversion method, what's the result of getting rid of people's belief in God? What's the result? A death wish. To me, that's the. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to do several videos on death culture, and you know, that's one way of putting it. And to me, death culture goes beyond just like literally wish. Oh, I wish I was dead. It's like putting pain on a pedestal, putting ignorance on a pedestal, putting mediocrity on a pedestal, putting. And not that those things aren't a fact of life. It's almost like about worshiping them and not really valuing hope and love and redemption and believing in those things. I wish you guys could see what I'm saying. Like, there's just little, like, rappers and singers will say, like, just one little lyric. Like, there's that Billie Eilish song. She's like, I want to end me, and I'm the bad guy. And, you know, that there's just a mountain, an infinite mountain of examples of like that are contributing to what I call a death culture. And you see, most people have really bought into that. Another thing right here that I'm going to talk about, the last example from this list, culture. So let's subvert the culture. Let's create it in the way we want. Demoralize. False heroes and role models. So let's inject false heroes and role models. Let's like I said, people are almost symbols for like what they believe. And let's put them, especially people that you've never met, and they're like, you know, wow, really glowy Hollywood stars. Like, you have a perception of them which is not based in reality, most people. And you're getting people through the false heroes to take on certain values and certain opinions through their role models. Anyway, and to me that all ties into TV because actors, actresses, things like that. That's been my rant about TV. I hope some of this stuff makes sense. I hope I didn't piss anyone off too bad. But all I'm trying to do is encourage you to sincerely, genuinely have a change of heart and start caring about, be born again, if you like that word or that terminology, and to really just start caring about what the truth is and actively looking for it, trying to teach people once you know better yourself, start to value what's actually important, start to live up to your potential. Yeah, we need to push all this other stuff to the side, and and it's not even just like I said, we're being had, we're being mind fucked, we're being manipulated on purpose. We're all victims of it, so let's stop giving them power, basically. One last point I wanted to make was there's this Steve Jobs interview, for example, and he's talking about how television programming is so poor and mediocre and basically garbage, and he's saying, your first instinct will be to think that it's a conspiracy, and the networks are feeding us the slop. I'm pretty much quoting him at this point. I don't remember exactly what he says, but the networks are feeding us this slop to dumb us down, whatever, all the other things I might have listed already. And he says, well, if you thought about it for any amount of time, you'll realize that the networks absolutely want to give us what we want to see. Like, they're in the business of giving the customer what they want to see. So he's basically, and I also heard an interview of Rod Serling, the guy who wrote Twilight Zone. They're talking about which came first, the chicken or the egg, in the sense of was the audience's bad taste what caused the trash TV, or was the trash TV what caused the audience's bad taste? And that's definitely a thing worth pointing out, and it's actually a good thing worth ending on, because what that question ultimately does is puts the responsibility firmly on the shoulders of the individual, which is why that's the primary reason I was ranting and raving about values and, prioritizing certain things and principles. And I would disagree with Steve Jobs when he says there's no conspiracy, that it's all just free market giving us what we want to see. I think that's ridiculous to say that there's no plot whatsoever to basically influence our minds on purpose to get us to think, feel, and act a certain way. To me, that's insane to think that doesn't go on, and that the TV and the internet and the music isn't used as a tool for that. But at the end of the day, you have your choice to make as an individual. So that's why I was talking about values so much. And it's a very predatory environment. Like I said, man, if you don't care about what the truth is, even though you'll probably never figure out the truth in your single little human lifetime. Anyways, I just wanted to end on that note, because I agree there wouldn't be a market for it if people didn't like it, but they're also contributing to the mentality that desires a market for that. So it's a vicious cycle type thing. But the power is in our hands. You can have a change of heart, and you can start to, in my opinion, once you start to watch and listen to quality content and people, there's a lot of smart people out there on the internet that you're missing out on, probably. And once you start hearing them on a regular basis and you go back to the other stuff, you in my opinion, this is speaking from personal experience, you'll start to see how kind of foolish and ridiculous and crazy it is. And new information, I made a video on how information and perception are closely related, right? How you take in information and it contributes to literally how you see yourself and the world, and etc. And it really, you know, when you start to watch things of a higher quality, and you keep going, you don't get caught up in these little cul-de-sacs, these little echo chambers, because there's a lot of traps for you along the way. You know, I didn't start out, not that like I know everything, but like I didn't, like, you know, my first start out from nothing, from like not trying to learn at all, was like, okay, liberal politics, and okay, Republican politics, and you know, you just keep moving, don't get trapped in one little, you know, like I said, cul-de-sac for your entire life. That's really a shame. You're wasting your brain. And my point, what I was trying to make, is it's really a game changer on like your ability to communicate and like how you see things. And new information contributes to the transformation in your values. And a transformation in your values, which is like a transformation in your heart, contributes to your desire to seek out better information. So they kind of play into each other. I hope that makes sense. So that's one last point I wanted to make. One other thing, I don't have a picture of it, but if you look up, yeah, you guys have probably heard of this before. I think it's called Nielsen families. Like, I don't know if they still do it, but back in the day they would put these boxes in like, you know, test subjects' homes, like 1,000 families, 100,000 families, however many across America, and they would basically use those boxes to gather data on people's TV watching habits to basically figure out what kind of programs. Well, that's funny too. Programs. We're literally television programming in the word itself. Like, what's a program? You know, it's a thing that runs on a computer. It's like its operation system, or it's a thing that its operation system runs, and you know, in a way, your consciousness is like a program. Like, I'm not saying you're a robot, but like it sort of functions that way. Input, output. You know, it's common sense stuff. Anyways, they would monitor what kind of things they want to watch, and I think one of the takeaways was, on average, I don't know how old this data is. It could be more by now. And you could probably, like I said, interchange some of this with smartphones, and rather than just strictly it being TV. But the average person, I think average American, spent 9 years, the average 60-year-old, I think it was, spent 9 years of their life in front of the TV by 60, if I'm not mistaken. Which, if that's true, I hope I'm wrong about that 60 number. I hope it's more like by the time they were 80 or something, because at that point, that's almost a sixth of your life in front of a TV. And you're going to tell me they're not going to use that. Yeah, even if you don't even buy into the conspiracy stuff, man, that's pretty bad. Pretty bad. And I'll even extend that logic to something like video games, which I enjoy. And you should extend that logic to like social media and things like that. It's like, you really want to look back on your life and know that you spent like, you know, 15-20% of it on, I mean, that's a pretty big number, but even 10% in front of a screen, just staring there with your mouth like slightly agape. I don't know. And that's a whole nother topic about how TVs could mess with you, like physiologically, rather than just in the form of like mental and emotional programming, in the sense that, like, I've heard people say, you know, alpha waves and like the flicker rate. And if you do notice, one basic editing technique that people will do in television is to cut like the camera will cut or change perspective every, you know, 7 seconds tops, because it like refreshes your attention span. If you look at older films, they have like stationary single continuous shots more often. And nowadays, if you just pay attention, watch every time the camera switches, every time it switches, it'll be about 7 seconds on average, maybe probably less. And that's, in my opinion, I think that's because, in a way, in your brain, it's like your attention span will get bored of looking at a still image, in a way, even though it's not completely still, but like a continuous shot for more than, you know, 7 or 8 seconds. That's just one example, and of how they're using like physiological science to contribute to get you to watch more TV. You know, I don't doubt these companies like Facebook and stuff have psychologists and scientists on their team. On like, they're obviously, even if you want to take the conspiracy stuff out of it, they're obviously running a company, and they want people to use their product as much as they can possibly get them to. So they're going to have people who like understand human reward systems. And you know, we all know this. Like, you know, you get the little like on your thing and it makes you feel good, and you know, you keep refreshing for that dopamine or whatever, to put it very mildly. You just gotta have your wits about you, otherwise you're just gonna be taken for a ride, in my opinion. Anyways, that's more than I intended to talk about, so that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching.